So WTF Jerky says you usually play in a bar pool, to be honest, but we always call our shots. 8-ball break can win, so it sounds like APA. No, not if you're calling your shots. In APA, you don't call your shots. The 8-ball on the break being win is one thing. But let me ask you this, because I had a really good conversation in one of my old live streams that I'm thinking about clipping, because they basically detest the idea that APA allows slop shots, like that it should be call shots. So when you say call shots, like, are you talking about you say this ball is going to go into this pocket? Like, you call 8-ball side, or you call this the 2-ball into the side pocket. If you miss the side pocket and it goes like 2 or 3 rails and then still goes into the side pocket that you called, is that a good shot? Do you still continue to shoot? Or were you supposed to call all the rails that the ball went before it fell into your designated pocket? Which rule do you play by? Because when you tell me call shot, I'm thinking you have to call all the rails before the ball falls into the pocket. Otherwise, you're playing call ball, call pocket. Because call ball, call pocket, it doesn't matter how the ball gets there, as long as it gets into the designated pocket that you're calling. So if you're one of the players, like in BCA, for example, BCA is call ball, call pocket. So therefore, if you call a ball into a corner pocket and you miss the corner pocket and it banks, like it bobbles, banks over to the side rail and comes back and falls into the pocket, you still get to shoot. But when people are complaining about how APA allows you to do slop, well, by definition, if you get a ball to fall that way, isn't that slop? So it's like you're okay when slop happens under that condition, but you're not okay when slop happens under this condition. I was like, that just doesn't seem fair. Like you're not staying logically consistent in your argument. And if you don't like slop, but you like to play 9-ball, and there's all kinds of slop in 9-ball, so it's like, which is it? Okay, so call all the rails. So you're playing call shot, which is good. I mean, like I said, I don't like to value one rule over the other. The rules are in place for specific reasons. People like to play by different rules. People that play under harder conditions like the harder conditions. Some people don't like the harder conditions. Fine. So they play under easier conditions. I don't want to consider one better than the other. But in a sport like this, where we're always wanting to encourage more and more people to join the sport, we need to make sure, in my opinion, that we have these conditions in place where people are comfortable with playing. That's all that really matters, right? To me, it's disheartening when I want to hear people like, well, the people that play APA or play slops or whatever, they don't belong in the sport. I'm like, what?
What?
It's like, are you kidding me? You want more people to get involved in this game. You just hopefully don't want people to um, stay where they're at. Like, we want people to grow and get better at this game. So it's like you don't want people to always rely on slop shots or anything like that. You want them to get to a point to where they're getting better at calling their shots, and they're getting better at making shots that they intend to make. Like that's the purpose. But if you're trying to tell me that we can grow this sport by playing the game in its hardest conditions, and people see us playing this game in this hardest condition, and they're like, there's no way in the world I can be able to do that. Well, that's gonna turn people away. And that, to me, that's just not the way to grow this sport. We got to have a level where someone who is an absolute beginner can come in comfortably, get familiar with the game, get familiar with the mechanics, and then slowly but surely start to give themselves different conditions that make the game just a little bit harder. Because there's always going to be that recreational player that goes and plays in their tournaments or whatnot, or they want to be the best player in their area. They don't want to be a professional, right? Because if they're going to be a professional, then they're always going to play in the hardest conditions possible. And when it comes to that, notice that the professionals don't even play at that level. They don't play call your shot. The the World Pool Masters right now, they're playing 9-ball. If a ball goes in sloppily, that professional is still playing, right? So if you're going to criticize people that are at the lower end of the skill level for playing slop, why aren't we criticizing professionals that are supposed to play at the highest level of pool, where everything that they do should be skillful and not luck? Luck exists everywhere in the spectrum. So I mean, it's part of the game. If you don't want someone to get lucky on you, don't let them to the table, right? You shouldn't be missing that allows someone to get to the table and get lucky on you, because in the grand scheme of things, that's your fault, regardless of how you look at it. That's my rant. about that. So you like to play WTF Jerky. You like to play call shots, and that's fantastic. Sometimes I like to play call shots. There's been tournaments I used to play in many years ago where you had to call it down to that nitpick. And I remember calling shots on guys. This is also long before I was as good as I am now. But even back then, I was still calling like really, really goofy shots. I would say like the cue ball is going to hit this ball. That ball is going to carry him off this ball. Then it's going to carry him off this ball. It's going to catch this rail, carry him off this ball, and go into a pocket. Like I would literally call shots like that. Sometimes it would happen and sometimes it wouldn't happen. But when it does happen and I called everything that happened, of course, my opponent's jaw just drops like, how did you see that? Right? But at the same time, I would argue it's like it's kind of ridiculous that I have to go to that measure for a bar tournament, right? This is not a professional event or whatever, just to show you that I know what I'm talking about. Kind of thing. But stuff like that exists. And back in the day, I used to have the attitude to where it's like, yeah, this is the way it should be. But then as I've gotten older and I've gotten more mature, it's like, wait a minute. We got to make sure that we level the playing field. If you want to play under hard conditions, go play under hard conditions. Fine. But don't chastise anybody else that wants to play under easier conditions than you want to play under. Because we're all here to play. We're all here to learn. We're all here to have fun. Well, there you go, Alex Johnson. You're saying flukes and master snooker counts too. Right? So why doesn't anybody chastise any of them for whenever they get lucky? They just go, oh, he fluked it. But what do they always do? They put their hand up in apology, some sort of apologetic gesture saying, I know that I got lucky, but it's still my turn. Right? To me, that's like showing signs of respect. And stuff like that exists in a lot of different sports. When an athlete knows they got lucky at doing something, they usually will make some type of gesture to say, hey, sorry for getting lucky, but, it's still my turn. Whew. That topic got me excited. Felix Roman, there's another league that does that. There are so many players. So, for example, actually, you're saying that if you're going for a ball that goes into another you're trying to make it go into the corner pocket, for example, but then it goes into another pocket and you're allowed to shoot, you should be able to call your shots. My first question I'm going to ask you is, do you play 9-ball? And if the answer is yes, then don't worry about an 8-ball that slop counts. Right? It's just what I would counter you with, instead of complaining that your opponent gets lucky, don't let your opponent get to the table. Like that would be basically your ultimate purpose, really. Because the rules are in place for a particular reason. APA is strictly targeted for your amateur players. Then you've got your BCA, where you do have to call your pockets. And therefore, if it falls into another pocket, then your turn is over. But if you're saying if you're saying that you don't like slop, then how far are you going to take that? Meaning, if you call a ball to go into a corner pocket and it's supposed to go straight there, there's also the rule that if it goes 4 rails and still goes into the pocket that you called, even though that's not the way you wanted it to go, then it still counts. But by definition, isn't that slop? That the ball went 4 rails and still went into the ball that you still went into the pocket that you called? It's not the way that you wanted it to go, but you're still going to be allowed to shoot. So the reason why I say that is I just don't think that players should be just nitpicking so badly on each in particular areas and why one area is supposed to be better than the other. It's just they all serve their purpose for the target audience that they're expected to draw into their league. So when players want to argue about slop, I'm going to ask for you to stop playing 9-ball, because that exists in 9-ball. You pretty much just say every single solitary game, it doesn't matter what you do, it's call pocket. Actually, it should just be call shot, not call ball, call pocket. It should be call your shot. You should be calling that your ball is, we don't call if a pocket bobbles, and every time it bobbles into the pocket, that's how many rails it hits. When you bobble a ball into a pocket 3 times and then it happens to fall. Yeah, I don't think you should go to that extreme, though I've been in some bar tournaments many years ago where they do go to that extreme, where if you know you're going to catch the inside jaw of the pocket, you have to say you're going to catch the inside jaw of the pocket before the ball falls in. Otherwise, it's an invalid shot. I mean, I've been places where it's been taken to that extreme. But if you know that you're going to shoot a ball, that ball's going to carom off of 2 balls and fall into that pocket, then you should announce that whole entire thing, which is basically calling your shot, not just calling your pocket. Like if you really want to get nitpicky, then just make it to where the whole thing is nothing but skill and luck is completely removed from the game. And it should be done across all games and not just certain ones. These are really good topics. I love when these topics come up. And you know, it's not like I'm going to disagree with you, because it sucks if you basically lost a game because your opponent managed to, you know, 5-rail a shot in when they were trying to just shoot it straight into a pocket. I'm not going to argue that. Like, it sucks to lose to something like that. But again, I have to look at it, well, I gave them the opportunity to be at the table. That's my fault. You know, if I don't give them an opportunity to be at the table, they don't have an opportunity to slop a ball in. That's basically like my mentality and how I try to approach that stuff.